Odysseus-The Epic Myth of the Hero, Book 17. And as we walked along, exhausted, Eumaeus was the first to speak his mind. He knocked a tooth out of my aching head. My tongue cannot refrain from grooving out the wound where once was rooted that good tooth. Tell me, Odysseus, will Ctibene be able to see it when I smile? Stopped, looked into his face, and spoke these words. So smile, and let me see, for you have much to smile about. You knocked 2 teeth out of the mouth of goading Melanthius. This said, and Eumaeus smiled. He lost the first big tooth inside his canine. I said, only your smile is just a little darker toward the back, and she will love you till the day she dies. This stopped poor Eumaeus cold, and he began to cry into his hands. I gripped his wrists and spoke these words. We can no more discuss this ever, but if you were the grandson of a king, I would be proud to call you brother. Life is strange, then and there, here and now. It seems all men can call a slave and king ancestor down in Hades. Life is luck. And if you live your luck, you can win honor from the gods, for you in your place and me in mine. But I will set you free one day, Eumaeus, when I'm king. And if for once I beat the wrath of gods and come back to the high-roofed house where once I was a child, I'll free you, Eumaeus, and we'll never have to work again. But then I had a question of my own. Now say your thoughts why goading Melanthius laughed like he did about Laertes. And now you answered, Eumaeus, with the words that changed my life from then on out. Some claim that brave Laertes cannot be your father. They claim your mother Anticlea went to see her father just a year before your birth, while still a newlywed. Autolycus lived high on Mount Parnassus, where he had a reputation as a sorcerer and cattle thief. His neighbor was an evil man named Sisyphus. He was so bad in life that trance-bound healers, searching through the underworld for lost, tormented souls, proclaimed upon awaking that they saw him there, condemned to roll a stone uphill for all eternity. But one step short of reaching top, All-Father Zeus, with awesome whimsy, sends the stone rolling back down the hill. And Sisyphus, betrayer of the secrets of the gods, must bear his ceaseless burden once again and roll the stone back up the hill. Back then, upon the isthmus that connects the land of Pelops with the realm of Minotaur's slaying Theseus, and not far from where Procrustes kept his monstrous inn, Sisyphus ran a herd of cattle that was white as milk. He started to suspect his herd was shrinking while the herd of sly Autolycus was increasing, but he could not prove his neighbor rustled, for every bull and every cow he owned was black as moonless night. Neighbors whispered that Autolycus could conjure evil, cast spells, and shift his shape, so Sisyphus began to think that he also knew how to change the cattle's color after theft. He carved a secret mark into the bottom of his cattle's hooves and trailed the ones gone missing in the night. The tracks directly led to sly Autolycus. With neighbors there to testify, indignant Sisyphus accused Autolycus of theft, and in the wrangling that ensued, he slipped away and snuck into the room where Anticlea slept. He hurled ensorcelled dust into her eyes and had the daughter of his enemy. They say the issue of that union was yourself, Odysseus. That's why they named you as they did, in honor of the anger that inspired your strange conception. But this is a rumor only, the like of which is always bruited about a brilliant prince. This said, we walked along in silence then up to the high-roofed house my father kept. Laertes, bastard son of evil King Acrisius, who locked his virgin daughter Danae in a casket forged of bronze, and tossed her in the sea because he would not take her word that Zeus came to her in a golden shower, getting her with child. Laertes and his mighty nephew Perseus were born a day apart, and in the war that raged when Perseus returned to claim his rightful throne, Laertes fought right by his side. He was an Argonaut and sailed to distant Colchis to retrieve the golden fleece with Jason and the greatest crew that ever sailed as one. He threw a spear along all the other major heroes of his generation that downed the demon boar that ravaged Calydon, and witnessed firsthand Meleager kill off his uncles for love of Atalanta, and so create his own sad burning fate. In the name of Perseus, king of Argos, Laertes conquered Kephallonia, Same, Zakynthos, and following sunset even further, Ithaca. And there he made his home, and governed trade with Sicily and Italy for his nephew, growing rich in flocks and fields. Laertes never left sweet Ithaca again, because the world came to his fulgent doorstep, looking out to sea from wind-swept heights. I found him doing what he loved to do the best, inspect his vineyard. He turned his head, and gazing at his features rimmed with doubt, I realized my own worst fears and grave suspicions. He never said a word. He never asked me where I'd been. He only took me briefly in his arms and quelled a sob and bid me go and speak with Anticlea. It was the first and only time I'd ever seen a trace of fear in brave Laertes' eyes. It is only the mother who completely knows the truth that grew inside her womb. Amid the ruins of my confidence, she was my only hope and greatest fear. I found her gazing out to sea, the gentle breeze rejoicing in her long black hair. I took her by the hand and spoke these trembling words. They say that Rumor is a goddess who escaped Pandora's box to plague the life of anxious man, and is a curse occasioned by the theft of fire, and is one way that Father Zeus can level those who reach too high. I am not reaching high for anything. Upon my knees I beg you, please dispel these lies that haunt my mind and fill my heart with venomous misgivings, and cause sweet laughter to dog my heels, even here inside the halls of brave Laertes' high-roofed house. Tell me true that I live here, his honored son. This said, and Anticlea sipped her wine and spoke these words with vacant eyes. A woman is expected in these times to lie, so all men say, and now you nearly are a man yourself. It's time you see Autolycus. He is the one who named you Anger's child upon the heights of Mount Parnassus. You will hear a truth you can believe. And so I sailed to see Autolycus across a warm sirocco wind that bore a fine red dust from Africa. We rode due south and rounded Kephallonia toward the rising sun, and crossed the strait that led into the Gulf, with Peloponnesos due south and wild Aetolia north. But just halfway across, and then the wind began to howl down from the north and blew our ship far south, way past the entrance to the Gulf. We could not make a landfall till we reached the river Alpheus in Elis, where the monstrous bones of Titans killed by Zeus stick out of earth along the banks. We beached our ship and walked upstream to Grand Olympia, where Rhea's son, the Curetes, had settled. When Rhea lay upon the earth in labor with the baby Zeus, she dug her fingers deep into the dirt and cried in agony. And where her right hand gripped the Curetes rose from sacred soil, completely armed and clashing spear on shield. Now Rhea could not bear lose another child to Kronos, cannibal king of all the fiery cosmos and father of the king to come, bright Zeus, the lord of thunder. She wrapped a stone in swaddling cloth and fed it to the monster god, and spirited the babe away to monstrous Crete, and hung his cradle from a tree limb right outside the mouth of endless twisting caverns. And when the babe would cry, all 5 armed Curetes would clash their spears upon their shields to hide the sound, from ever-searching Kronos. After Zeus destroyed his monster father king and cast the Titans down to Tartarus, the Curetes, the bravest of his allies, wandered earth until they settled in the land of Elis in Olympia. The eldest Curete, the Thumb, had brought an olive tree from distant Hyperborea and planted it. He set his younger brothers to a foot race and crowned the winner with an olive wreath. That night they slept on lovely beds of gathered olive leaves, as working men have done since then. And now, adrift in icy seas, far from the saving land, I wish I had a bed of olive leaves to rest my weary limbs and heart. But then I walked the course that all the fastest sprinters of Achaia run in honor of the god 1 year in every 4, to emulate the race run by the Curetes, who gave us the olive and dreamed of victory. I beat Ajax at Troy, only after he had beat me at a coveted Olympia when we were young. The wind died down. We roared north into the Gulf and set our course into the rising sun. Just past the town of Patra, where the Gulf becomes a narrow channel, there we hugged the northern shore and pulled all day until the Bay of Sirha opened. While Ilios left the sky in flames, we beached our ship and walked the river Plaistos Gorge by rising moonlight till we reached the temple sacred to Apollo at prophetic Delphi. We passed the stone that Rhea fed to Kronos in place of baby Zeus and sought accommodations at the hostel for the night. The priests provided honey-sweetened barley cakes and strong red wine to slake our thirst and quell our hunger pains. Next day we climbed the slopes of Mount Parnassus till we reached the high-roofed house Autolycus maintained. My mother's father welcomed me and ordered that next day we beat the bush for boar to celebrate my voyage. Each hunter had a spear to throw and one to stab up close. We ranged the sacred mountain until we raised an ancient male whose tusks curled back into his jaw and droopy eyes were shot with blood. Our spears bounced off his hide like rocks that boys might throw at sides of barns. Now ringed by dogs and men, the boar chose me to rush. I dropped my throwing spear and took a knee and wedged the butt end of my stabbing spear deep into dirt and offered up the blade for him to run upon. The blade tip entered at the neck and cut clean through flesh and bone until a sharp, merciless bronze unstrung his heart, and he fell dead upon me. But in his dying he had wounded me as well. My thigh was gashed right to the bone, and I near died from loss of blood. Autolycus himself saw to my wound until it healed into a jagged, ripping scar. When I could take my first few steps unaided, I went and saw Autolycus and spoke these words to him. Rumor clings to princes like fire does to seasoned wood, and in the smoke the truth becomes obscured. I wish to cast no doubt upon my mother, but I need to know from the man who is my father if Laertes did not sire me. Can you tell me what I need to know? This said, and wolfish gray Autolycus threw back his head and laughed and spoke these saving words. For all I truly know, great Zeus himself could be your sire. Old Sisyphus was one to spread a filthy rumor, just to hurt a foe. But you did not get born until your mother, Anticlea, had been gone from here for 13 months. Laertes is your father, boy. In fact, indeed. Sail home with all the gifts I give to you and grow to be a king that is a shepherd to your people and a terror to your foes. You've shown to all that you can stand the charge and suffer wounds without undue lament. Your scar will mark you out as one who will be recognized in wave and war, my son. I left Autolycus well laden with a load of gifts and rode into the setting sun for Ithaca, low-lying in the sunset sea. We beached our ship below the high-roofed house Laertes kept. and carried everything uphill and placed it all inside the hall. And on my way to bathe my limbs, I came upon my mother Anticlea, speaking with Melanthios, whose lips were jagged still from fighting Eumaeus. He smiled when he saw me, for he knew he was a favorite of the queen. Now rage spread like a stain throughout my blood. My hand was upon the knife Autolycus presented to me without a word. I walked up to him there and slashed his cheek of this backbiting slave and spoke these haughty words as blood filled in his hands. A man is often known by the scars he bears. Tell all who ask this scar was given by Odysseus for lies you told. My set foot inside this house again, I'll sink my blade into your scandal-mongering black heart. Melanthios now rose and stumbled from the hall, and Anticlea howled in protest. I cut her off and spoke these words. You are the one who gave me leave to doubt you. Go tell our king, my father, that I am back, and bear him gifts from wolfish gray Autolycus. This said, my mother turned and heralded my coming to Laertes in his vineyard. And now, my lonely father, I address you as sure, relentless passing seasons pile upon your shoulders. No more do kings and wars consume your energies. Affairs of men, the haggling, scheming, building, arbitrating, soon forgotten business figures of the day are dust now in your mind, and all you crave here now is watching green life grow to grape in awe of resonant Dionysius. Your son has come back to his homeland now. I've lost the stupid doubt that stained my heart. I'm ready to begin my training at the oar and spear and the shield. I lay these gifts that came to me from old Autolycus at your feet now, Laertes, a golden tripod never fired, a purple robe of softest wool, the spear with which I killed the boar, but not before he marked me with his tusk. All these I give to you. All he gave to me, but for this knife I've always kept somehow, even now, bobbing in the bashing sea this night.